Setting up my meeting.
Good evening, folks. Welcome back. This is your half-hour call. Half hour, please. Half hour.
Good evening, everyone. Kurt Columbus, Artistic Director here at Trinity Repertory Company with your half-hour call. I have wonderful guests here tonight. We are so lucky we're sponsored by our friends at Washington Trust. We thank them. They sponsor us every week, and we couldn't be here without them. And my guests this evening are a wonderful collection of folks. We even have a special surprise guest who I'll get to last, but first, we have Amanda Downing Carney, who is our costume designer at Trinity Rep. Welcome, Amanda. Thank you for being here. I also have Taavon Gamble, who is a brilliant actor and a choreographer and who plays Bob Cratchit in Christmas Carol. Taavon, thank you for being here. Alberto Genao, who is our cinematographer and also our editor and just a genius. Albert, thanks for being here. And you've heard me say his name now for 8 months. I keep saying, Peter, can you play this clip? But Peter Hurowitz has surprise joined us tonight because he's a part of our Christmas Carol. So Peter, thanks for being with us and for turning your camera on for the first time in April. Okay, so thanks you all for being here. We're going to talk tonight about A Christmas Carol and the online version that we've been working on for several months now. I want to go back in the Wayback Machine a little bit to before all of this, everything changed. I want to play a scene just to start us off from the before time. And it's a scene with Taavon Gamble and Danny Duque Estrada. It's from our production of Tale of Two Cities. And I'm playing this first to sort of contextualize. Here's what it was like to do theater in a theater with people in front of an audience. And I thought we'd start there and work our way forward. So Pete, if we could see this from Tale of Two Cities.
This is a strange chance that throws you and me together. Do you begin to feel yet that you belong to this terrestrial scheme again, Mr. Darnay?
I'm confused regarding time and place, but I'm so far mended as to feel that.
That must be an immense satisfaction. As for me, the greatest desire I have is to forget that I belong to it. It holds no good in it for me, except wine like this, nor I for it. So we are not much alike in that particular. Indeed, I begin to think that in spite of our physical resemblance, we are not much alike in any particular, you and I. Now your dinner is done, Mr. Darnay. Why don't you call a health? Why don't you give a toast?
What? What toast?
It's on the tip of your tongue. Well, it ought to be. No, it must be. I'll swear it's there.
Miss Manette, then.
Miss Manette, then. That's a fine young lady to hand to a coach in the dark, Mr. Darnay.
Yes.
That's a fine young lady to be pitied by and wept for by. How does it feel? Is it worth being tried for one's life to be the object of such sympathy and compassion, Mr. Darnay?
Thank you, Mr. Carton, for your remarkable assistance today.
I neither want any thanks nor merit any. It was nothing. Mr. Darnay, let me ask you a question.
Willingly, and a small return for your good offices.
Do you think that I particularly like you?
Really, Mr. Carton, I've not asked myself the question.
No, but ask yourself the question now.
You have acted as if you do, but I don't think you do.
I don't think I do. I begin to have a very good opinion of your understanding.
Nevertheless, there's nothing in that, I hope, to prevent us parting without ill blood on either side.
Bring me another pint of this.
Oh, plays that we used to do in front of audiences. How brilliant you were in that, Taavon. um, that was quite a remarkable thing to be doing when the pandemic started, right? You were right in the middle of that. What was that like? What was the show like? That final week, everything?
Yeah, I didn't even put into words. It was just strange, and weird. That final week, there were rumors going around and, swirling, but no one really having the understanding of what was happening. And then, we came in for morning performance for one of our student matinees at 10 a.m. and did that show and left thinking we were going to come back for a night show. And it didn't happen. So it was bizarre to have something that you had worked on and not feeling like that finished, quality of it, or that or having the ability to say goodbye to it, or, that was just bizarre.
Right.
Because I haven't been back on there since then.
Right. And this is the thing, right? So we've put together an entire show now, with most of us not being inside of the theater. And in fact, we're going to play a little clip later where we're all working remotely from different locations while we're filming. So it's a very different experience. I mean, it was a decision then that we made to pivot to something that would be online. And Taavon, Peter, Amanda, you were all there in the development process as part of that week that we spent kind of punching the old story around the room. What do you remember about that, Amanda?
Well, there's always a lot of ideas. And there was a lot of pent up, creative energy in that workroom. Gosh, so many ideas. A lot of ideas made it in, actually, too. I feel like in a normal rehearsal room, a lot of ideas get thrown out because they're not practical, but gosh, we just did them all.
I think there might have been some that were not practical.
Yeah.
But we still did them.
Some that we were like, that's a $3 million budget film which is not what we're doing, right? But it was a really fun and creative time. I think. I mean, we had a lot of sort of back and forth, and everyone contributed. And then. Yeah, go ahead, Amanda. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to say the beautiful thing I think that we discovered in the workshops was we kind of threw out a lot of our script and used Dickens's words, which was, I think, a really remarkable and wise choice too.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
I think, spoiler alert. I think the thing that I'm proudest of is that we just decided that we were going to be as aggressive about telling the story as we always are, right? Taavon, you've done Christmas Carol how many times now?
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of it, is that we at Trinity, we're used to starting from scratch every single year, and figuring out a new way into how to tell the story, and with a new concept, casting changing, completely new designs. So we're used to doing that. It's just this year it was all right, but now we're gonna use a different form of media. That was the challenge. But us crafting something from scratch, that's not new. It was just okay, but not on stage and not with an audience this year. And go.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
We often throw everything out and start from scratch, right? But it was the new media piece.
Well, even when we do start from scratch, when we're doing it, we kind of know things that work and don't work, and we try to figure out what we're doing because we always do it, and what we do because the script calls for it. Yep. We really didn't even have that as a backstop this time.
No, and then we met Albert. That was what I was going to say. And part of what happened when we met Albert is that we had a lot of questions about, like, what the heck do you do if we're going to film instead of do it live in front of an audience? And Albert, you at least you put on a really good game face and seemed really like, oh yeah, what you're asking seems totally reasonable and rational from the beginning. I thought we were nuts, but you seemed really okay, down to play with us and go, well, I'll do that, sure.
No, but your team was great. Like the setup, everything, it made sense. The script made sense. It was just bringing it to life. And I felt like we have a great team and we accomplished it.
We're so, I just can't say this enough. I know that all three of the folks on this call will agree with me. You are just such a gift to us. We've found somebody we're going to collaborate with forever because it's just a joy to have you in the room. But you didn't say you're crazy. You said instead, I need these cameras and we need to do these things technically. Talk us through, for the folks who weren't part of the process, we sent cameras to actors, right?
Yes, for me, that was the hardest part. As a director of photography, directing through Zoom, like that was super hard.
Oh my gosh.
But
Yeah.
we accomplished it. We got great footage. I feel like.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Maybe Pete, let's play this little, just because this is the weirdest thing you'll ever see. All 5 of us are on this call. Now just set this up for folks. This is a Zoom recording. We're filming the Cratchits, right? Which is, Taavon was always supposed to play Bob Cratchit. Because of COVID, we had to figure out a family pod that could be with him in the Cratchit. So you happen to live with an actor, right? Your partner's an actor.
Yeah. My partner had been an actor, and then early on, I just mentioned like the concept with my niece, not thinking that was going to be involved. You know?
Be careful what you say in the room.
Well,
Right?
you said, well, I have this niece that talk a little bit about the reality. You are part of your niece's pod, educating, schooling her, right?
Yeah, well, it was, I was talking about how over the summer, like she had came by and like, oh, we had, we're working on the piano and then working at dance, and, like that just how summer had gone, and just creating conversation. And then it was like a week or so later, I'm getting a call and Kurt's like, so I have an idea. And I'm like, okay. And it's not what I thought. He's like, so how about your niece is in it? And so your partner as well. I'm like, what? Like, where did that come? But, it worked.
We have to blame Amanda for putting Adam in it, because Amanda was the one who's like, I did theater with Adam, right?
Yeah, at URI. We both went to URI together at the same time.
And so Adam ended up being drafted to be part of the Cratchit family. Evelyn, I don't think we would call it being drafted. I think Evelyn was
She needed no convincing.
She needed no convincing to play the role of Tiny Tim. And she's just delightful. Okay, so great. That's the setup. We're filming at Adam and Taavon's house. Evelyn is there, and Peter and Albert and Amanda and Kurt are on Zoom. Okay, there we go. There's the setup. Oh, and there's some other folks too.
Yeah, so you can start your devices recording.
That's Kristen. She's stage manager, and she's the assistant director on this project.
Scene 3.3, take 1.
So you see Taavon in the and Adam over there. I'm standing up. I don't know why.
Merry Christmas, Robert. And how was church? Lovely, my dear. How did little Tim behave? It's good as gold. And even better. Somehow he gets thoughtful. Sitting by himself so much, he thinks the strangest things you ever heard. He told me coming home that he hoped that people saw him in the church because they can see that he's sick. And it might be pleasant to think upon Christmas Day, who made lame beggars walk and blind men see. Oh, my boy. I do think, my dear, he is growing stronger and hardier each day. Robert.
Lunch with our dinner?
Of course we can, honey. I'll get the cups. Oh, it all smells wonderful.
I'm so hungry.
and cut. Nice. And hit
Great.
stop
Peter,
on
let's-
those things. Good
let's
work,
Pause
everyone.
there. Okay, so those folks include in the Zoom boxes, you see Peter, Albert, Amanda, me, Kristen, who's giving all the direction down below. Taavon and Adam and Evelyn are in the box with the ring. What's that object in the foreground, Albert? The ring.
The ring light.
So it's a light specifically focused on the scene that we're watching. And then in the middle, rubbing her eyes, is our beloved Laura Smith, who's been on this show before. I love that you paused it right at that point. It's my favorite thing that's happened on this show.
I might be in trouble.
I'm thrilled. And then the gentleman who's looks like he's feeding himself is Steve McClellan, who's our lighting guru and just an amazing person. So thanks, Peter. But this is the way we film, right? The four of us sitting and observing through Zoom. Just because by the way, I have to tell people, I have questions from students who have been studying Christmas Carol. And one of the students from Cranston is a young woman named Victoria. And she said, what was the process of shooting the film during COVID? And Victoria, this is the process of shooting the film during COVID, which is then we had to wait until the footage that Taavon and Adam and Evelyn took downloaded. Then we watched it on Dropbox. This process was a little bit like water torture. It just went on forever. Albert, have you ever filmed anything like this?
No. And also on set, just staying 12 feet away from the actors. I had to have special zoom lenses. It was tough.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is, even when we were in person, we had to keep distance. We all had to be masked. We all had to have face shields. So it was right from the very beginning really hard. Now, one of the students, Gianna from Johnston, asked the question, does it ever get weird all singing together when you're in different places? So one of the things that happened is the show ends with a song, Hey Ho, and we did this crazy shoot on a Sunday afternoon where everyone was singing together. Taavon, you were singing. What was that like to sing a choral song on Zoom?
It was bizarre, just like everything else. I mean, because it was no one, because it's over Zoom, tempos are all over the place. So everyone's trying to like listen. And then we were like trying to do parts, but you can't hear different parts. And then cut-offs. We're like, we're just gonna have fun with this because it's impossible.
Yeah, it devolved into everyone shouting, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. And poor Peter, we've left you with such a mess in terms of sound, but it's turned out okay, right?
Yeah. Everyone so we played the music over Zoom, so they were all on time with themselves. But while we were watching it, everyone was starting and stopping at a different time. So we had 6, 7 people singing, all kind of at different times.
It was crazy, yeah. And because there's a delay on Zoom. Danny was on the West Coast. Laura Smith just texted and said we were standing because we were halfway through our second 9-hour day. I'd forgotten that, or maybe I blocked it out. Yeah. So the process to get here included a bunch of costume development, because we still wanted to have the Dickens clothes, even though we're having to do a lot of stuff on Zoom. Amanda, you and I started talking back in the summer, I think, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Early. Mm-hmm.
Early. Yeah. Like July.
It's a blur.
But Peter, do you have that slide that Amanda sent? That's the Cratchit family.
Yeah. 1 second.
Amanda, talk to us about how you came up with just what we're about to see here, all of these beautiful, beautiful clothes.
Well, I don't know how beautiful they look on my couch, but my my house became a costume shop. My dining room table was my, is where I'm set up for my office and sewing. So this is a picture on my couch that I took to show Kurt, where I was going, make sure the colors work together. So it's a family, small family this year. Not a ton of kids, just the one tiny Tim. And Kurt, you did want tiny Evelyn to be a tiny Tim, not a tiny Tina.
Yep. Yep.
So I kind of wanted a family resemblance. And we did this mashup of, modern and Edwardian, and some things are also Victorian, because, we're using technology, and historical costumes, but we just didn't want to, have it be too wacky. And bow ties and sweater vests are timeless, right? So,
Totally.
And also sometimes I think about, why does Scrooge not like Cratchit? And especially Taavon playing Cratchit. Like, Taavon is so capable, like he's like the best employee. So I didn't want him to look sloppy or anything. I want him to look, intelligent, put together, crisp. Also, the Cratchits aren't quite as poor as perhaps other years. So I just tried to incorporate all of that and stuff that wasn't too fussy for actors to be able to put on at home.
Right, right. Because normally we would have dressers helping them, right?
Yeah, totally. And I just got, we've put costumes on Taavon quite a few times, but never Evelyn and never Adam. So I just asked for some basic sizes and then crossed my fingers and toes. And it worked out.
It looked beautiful.
So
Do we have a picture of them in clothes? Look at that. Look how adorable that little family is. It's comfortable clothes, right, Taavon?
Oh, it was great. Amanda always knows what to do. She's great.
Yeah, yeah.
Aw.
Yeah, it's true. You always know what people look good in. Half the time you're better than me. Let's talk a little bit about Becky. Oh, come on.
I know.
Adorable.
Look at her.
Evelyn is so adorable. It's crazy.
She's so sweet.
Let's talk about the Ghost of Christmas Past. Peter, I think we have a slide. Yeah, great.
It's my mood board.
Yep, mood board. It was going to be crazy Becky Gibble. And so Amanda, talk us through this a little bit.
Sure. So the big idea for Past was that they, I don't know, this is another spoiler, that they enter a book, and it was a photo album at one point, and just a lot of ideas floating around. And Becky actually had the idea that she was a librarian. And I was like, yes, okay, I know what to do now. That's the word. That's what I needed. And I started doing, just some general Google image research. And I happened upon this 50s dress, and something about that just felt really right. And I found book fabric, and I felt really inspired by this Marilyn Monroe picture also. Because Becky is, as beautiful as Marilyn, and as exuberant. And yeah, with Becky's, blessing too, we sort of went for it.
And Peter, I think there's a picture. That's the dress. Yeah. That's the finished dress. It's so beautiful.
So the wonderful Meg Donnelly, who is our cutter draper at the theater, I handed her fabric and sent her a picture, and she had Becky's measurements, but she also knows, Becky's body so well. Is that a weird thing to say? That she that she whipped this up. We didn't have a fitting at all, and it fit Becky perfectly. Because this is what she does. So yeah, this is a picture that Meg had taken and sent to me.
And then the next one, this is your sister, Amanda, because we couldn't do a costume fitting on Becky.
Yeah, so this is my sister Becky, funny enough.
Crazy.
Yeah, and this was for for some other special moments. We needed some images of a person in this costume beforehand, and I couldn't get other Becky in the costume for what we needed the images for. So my sister happened to be the right size, and I thank her for her service here.
For being a living dressmaker's dummy.
Yes.
That's fantastic. Great. Thanks, Pete. So yeah, oh, crazy. He looks so good.
Yeah, and that's filming. Mm-hmm.
Yep. People are gonna go nuts for her Ghost of Christmas Past. She's amazing. So this is all, and we filmed Becky on one of these cameras that we sent to her house and sat there and fixed the lighting and the white balance and all the things that I know now. But Albert, once we got into the theater, you and a film crew were able to use some real camera equipment, right?
I want to thank my film crew, Miguel and Kufa. It was everybody worked. We worked so amazing together, and I feel like everything went smooth in the theater. We had also Steve with the lighting, everything. Peter with the audio, everything was perfect in there. In the theater, the cinematic lighting, it was amazing. I loved it.
We had a really good time. What's the camera that we're using? Because one of the students asked, what is the name of the camera? I was like, I don't know.
Canon C500 Mark II.
Look at that. And you said it's like a Netflix rated camera, right?
Yeah, it's Netflix approved. We filmed it in 6K, and so it's...
Wow, that's unbelievable. Why don't, Peter, we run this little clip, which is Joe Wilson as Scrooge coming to Trinity Rep, and he's visited by an old friend. That's all I'm going to say.
What? Who said that? Jacob Marley? Jacob Marley? Humbug.
That is so much fun. I can't even believe it. So we decided to make Scrooge's home the theater, because in my mind, that is actually where Ebenezer Scrooge lives, is in the theater space. Albert, talk a little bit about how we got to where we got to with filming Marley in the Street.
So Marley in the Street, that was cool. It was a great experience. It was just, filming Marley in the Streets with the zoom lens. We captured him from afar, right. And it was great.
Yeah, Amanda, you were with Stephen as he was standing on the corner by the library.
Yeah, I'm just out of shot there. And then also when he's on the parking garage, I'm just over there. I think Laura is like down below, that's the not glamorous, like people hiding in the bushes.
It's fantastic though. You were stopping people from walking up to him and going, "Hey, buddy, are you okay?" Well, talk about the makeup a little bit. One of the students asked about how you did the makeup.
Sure. So Stephen Thorne is such a joy, and he has he's played Marley quite a few times. And we often joke in the costume shop that you know, if Stephen had it his way, he would, like, his nose would fall off every performance. Like under normal circumstance, like he just wants to like really look like he's dying. So I knew he would be game for like some special effects things that we can't normally accomplish during an actual theatrical run, because usually Marley has a quick change out of being Marley into like Fezziwig dance or something.
Yeah.
So we sometimes
play
have
the
to
spoons or something.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
But this was an opportunity to do something, you know, a little bit more full. So I think it actually was Meg Donnelly's idea, but the he has contacts, which are super creepy. He has like yeah, there he is. He's got some dirty teeth makeup. It's all just really theatrical makeup that we do, but just a bit more, you know, I wouldn't even say time, but just a little more care, you know, like hands a bit more, and but it's just contouring, and just being, I feel like I was more subtle for sure for film than we would do, you know.
You don't have to put it on in the dark under the stage.
Yeah, right. That's the other thing, right?
So this is a picture I took in the dressing room just because I knew that we would have 2 different days of shooting. So this was the first day of shooting, and I wanted to be able to recreate for when he had to do a street scene a different day. So this is just like for my like personal, you know, knowledge, but it was so creepy. I wanted to share.
And Pete, can we look at that second photograph? Yeah, this is with Albert's crew in the paint shop, and you can see we had to stay really far away, and Peter's up on a ladder getting sound. It was tough to shoot this, but it was also really fun because I think as we were doing it, we were all like, "This is so cool." Awesome. Rafi from Pawtucket, one of our students again, says, "How did you handle any special effects with all of the restrictions?" But I think on some level it freed us, right? I mean, Albert, you're doing talk a little bit about the special effects you're doing. Pete, I want you to talk about sound.
Right. So first, special effects start with makeup, you know, costumes, also lighting. Lighting, super important to get the shadows, depending on the look you're going for. Then from there, the magic comes in post.
That's right.
Where, you know, I added more wrinkles in Marley's face and brought up shadows and just added more effects. And the program I'm using is DaVinci Resolve, which is amazing because it lets you do effects, coloring, everything in one program. Prior to this program, it was separate programs you would have to use.
And Albert, when you say post, you mean post-production, right?
That's correct.
Right. So it's what happens for anyone who hasn't ever done this before is you shoot raw footage, and then we spend quite a few weeks selecting it, editing it, right, and then putting it together. And then Peter adds sound. So Peter, do you want to play for us the raw footage so that we can see what we just saw, but now without Peter's sound? And I think you'll see a big difference. Maybe we'll just play part of it, but maybe we'll play the whole thing. Okay, so do you remember the last one you saw had music?
There's a little bit of dialogue. You'll hear yourself in a second.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, it's the audio the camera captured.
Ebenezer!
What? Who said that?
Look all the way to the library.
Jacob Marley?
Great, Joey. Great.
Perfect.
Great. So you can see without the sound, without the music, it's not as interesting.
And the image still doesn't have color. That's straight. That this is raw from the camera.
Right. Exactly. And so there's a lot of, for anyone who thinks that what you film ends up being the final thing,
It's not.
and it's not. There are a lot of steps. We actually had a day that we were all in the graveyard together.
In the rain.
Thank you, Peter. In the rain in South Kingstown, right? Amanda, you found our cemetery for us. How'd you do that?
It's a place I go to often. It's in a neighborhood.
Don't make it sound like you're skulking behind gravestones.
I go like jogging. It's not crowded. It's great during COVID time.
It's a graveyard.
Yeah, it's this beautiful cemetery in Wakefield, St. Francis Cemetery. And I was like, we were talking about cemeteries, and I was like, have I got the cemetery for you?
Yeah. It was like a dating app. Swipe. Oh. And we got permission from a lovely gentleman named Bob, who came and spent the day with us, and he was so cool. And he let us set up there and just film all over the whole cemetery. It was wonderful.
Yeah. Shout out to superfan Bob Moniz. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, I loved him. But there were certainly some special challenges there, including rain, which I don't know. Albert, do you film in the rain all that often?
This was actually my second time. Prior to this, it was inside a vehicle and just some quick shots. But it was tough. It was tough trying to keep the equipment dry. I know it was tough for Peter trying to capture audio. It was tough.
Well, capturing the rain was easy.
Yeah.
The raindrops, you definitely capture that.
Yeah.
In the dialogue. And poor Taavon was there being Bob Cratchit at Tiny Tim's grave, and we're like, okay, now kneel down in the mud. Yep, definitely, yeah.
But it was more like, because we couldn't control the surrounding. So like, I remember there was a car coming up and we were like, oh no, please don't tell us there's a funeral about to happen. Or there was like the woman who was like right across from the shot, who was walking over. I was like, what? We couldn't control what was happening around us. So that was
And construction, backing up trucks.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was a construction truck. No, and the woman that you're talking about also had like a bright purple coat on. So there's Taavon like crying over his dead child, and the woman with the purple jumper. It
was a very busy day in the cemetery for some reason. It was rainy, but it was very busy. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, lots of folks. I just want to remind people that we're still going to take questions for a little bit. But I've got this list of questions from our students. There's a young woman named Annalise from Providence that said, how long do you normally plan for this? What's the difference online, and how many people are working on it? So Annalise, like we said earlier, Amanda and I started talking in the summer. Peter and I started talking in the summer. Taavon, you and I started talking in the summer about the Fezziwig dance, the hilarious thing that we're going to do there. Albert, you joined us in September, but that means we've been doing this for 3 months now, right? So to answer your question, we've been doing it for a really long time.
But on this, we actually had meetings about doing it live on stage.
Right.
And then we had meetings about filming a live performance on stage. And then we did this.
And then we did this. And it turns out this was the smartest thing to do.
Right.
It was. And then how many people are working on it? Gosh, how do I answer that question? I mean,
well, there was 5 full-time for the production, I think. And then a couple people came in. So we probably only had 8 or 9 on this, and productions usually for a show, big show, Christmas Carol, is 20 too many for working backstage?
Yeah.
15? Laura
Yeah.
will text you in a minute with the real number.
I mean, and so we had,
So it was a smaller group.
6, 9, 11 actors. We have, people that are working on the things like the drawings that are going to be in the show. Like there's so many hands that touch this, right? Albert, you had at least, you had 3 people on your live crew, but then you also have people who are helping you behind the scenes as well, right?
Definitely. I had people taking on different roles, like on set. Usually we have grips and other assistant camera, but we only had 2 people. Like I only had 2 crew members on set, so they were taking on different roles. It was a lot.
And we should also say that Laura Smith and Kristen Gibbs kept this all together somehow.
Yeah.
And did scheduling, all these people doing all different things.
Yeah.
And dealing with a union we've never dealt with, and
Kristen,
COVID.
and COVID, and Kristen was had an amazing sense of humor about the whole damn thing. That was the other thing, is that we could, right? Taavon, go ahead.
I was just saying, like, bless the entire crew, because all of us actors were given all this equipment. We're like, I don't know where this goes, and like suddenly like trying to fix shadows and lights, like something that we don't think about. Or Peter, I'm like, okay, this sound, this goes here, and trying to get things in drop boxes and cameras. We were like, it's a whole new respect that I think all of us have for the crew, because it was a lot.
Yeah, it was, but and of course, Taavon, you are the one person that we never ever had problems with, because you're just like a genius at everything. So it was amazing to hand you the equipment, and yep, right, got it good. But it is a lot, right? It's not things that we necessarily touch every day. So Annalise, to answer your question, it is both a small crew and a lot of people who worked on this. So both things are true. So there's a question from one of the students: do actors get really hot in their costumes? Amanda, do they?
I mean, maybe we should ask Taavon, but
Well,
it depends on the costume, I guess.
or when they're wearing 3 costumes, one underneath each other.
Yeah.
Right.
or when at the beginning of Christmas Carol last year, you get all of your clothes ripped off of you, as you did at the beginning of Christmas Carol last year. So you've had the whole range.
Oh yeah.
Do actors get hot in their costumes, Taavon?
Oh, of course. I mean, all the time. I mean, you're under the bright lights, and it's Christmas Carol, so we're in these layers and big coats and scarves and everything. And then we're like, okay, now you want to do a 7-minute dance number in the same costume, So of course.
We do laundry after every show.
Yeah, that's right. So they all have to be washable. That's something that people don't necessarily think about, right?
At least the first, 2 layers, skins, and then, shirts, and hygiene.
Well, hygiene. Yeah. Hashtag hygiene. Camilla from Lincoln asked, what part of the play was the hardest to execute as a movie? And I'm going to ask each of you, like, what was the hardest part of this process? And I will take volunteers for who wants to go first.
I think for me, I'll jump in. The hardest part was really not having like my normal peeps around, like my staff, my costume shop, the people I count on for like advice and consultation and their skill. It was weirdly like emotional when we did all get together in person. We were so happy to be together doing art, but there was sadness there too, because it was different, and we were missing so many people also. that are usually there. So that was the hardest part for me, not having my, my peeps.
Yeah, I was keenly aware when we were in that graveyard of all of the people who were not there with us, right?
Mhm.
Because we generally have a very big crew of people who work on this show, and so many of them throw so much into it, and yeah, they weren't there. So it was emotional. It was emotional because we were together, and it was emotional because we weren't all together.
And we hadn't seen each other in 6 months, large groups of us,
Mhm.
when you're usually spending 75 hours together.
Yeah. Well,
A day.
A day, yeah, right.
and Peter, that was interesting. I walked into the theater today, and this is on December 3rd. There would have been a student matinee, right? And it would have been littered with herds of children, just everywhere. And there were props and costumes in the hallways, and it's so weird. It's weird.
Mhm.
It really is. That was hard. What else was hard about this?
The recording at home, I think, like Albert said earlier, was one of the harder parts. We had, you talked about the video being sent back, but for the audio, we couldn't hear it until we got the card back and the recorder back. So we were just, and actually 90% of it turned out great, but we were just kind of hoping that it was going to turn out. And it's not even about the mic. I mean, you could, or how it gets set up. Something weird can happen.
Right. And something weird can happen, and that 10% can just be completely gone.
Yeah.
And
we like kind of being in control of stuff when we set it up. So not knowing what was happening and how it sounded was very strange.
Yeah.
Definitely. Filming, during a pandemic, just wearing a mask for all them hours and keeping distance. I usually, I'm in there, taking shots, getting up real close, and also the crew. I didn't have a full crew. It was tough.
Yeah. That's right. I mean, we talk about hands-on, and it is, what we do is handmade, right? And so you can't get close to touch things. Yeah, that's tough. Taavon, what's tough for you?
See, one of the hard parts, or maybe not, or different, was I really got the sense of that missing element of the audience, right? Because we're so used to crafting the show for a long period of time and then going through a lengthy preview period where we get feedback from the audience and we keep adjusting. So in this sense, it's, we had a short amount of time, and it was more of just trusting everyone across Zoom that, okay, I got this shot right, I'm doing this right, and then not having a sense of what the final product will be, because it's, we kind of do our thing and then we hand it over. Just like watching the footage with Joe and Stephen was incredible to watch, because that was my first time seeing any sort of the final product. So it's very strange to put something in and be like, okay, I'll see it when the whole world sees it, because I don't know what it's going to be. So that's like just bizarre and strange.
Also,
Go ahead, Albert.
Also, not being there and actually setting up lighting for the actors for certain shots, that was tough. I wanted to just jump into their houses and like set up. It was hard.
Yeah, we couldn't, right, and we couldn't go into their houses. Yeah. That was another thing that we couldn't do. It's interesting, Taavon, hearing you say that. I think we collectively own the final product when we make a theater piece together, right? I mean, we all own the whole process, and we don't necessarily all agree at all times with every aspect of the process, but we own it all, right? And this
and the difference is it's in a theater. That final stretch of time, it's also the time where all of us are together. It's that one moment where we're all in the same room for that week, working on the final result of what this will be, which is special. And that's like the missing element of this, is that at the end, we're kind of going separate, versus in the theater, we're all together in this as one at that final stretch.
Yeah, boy, it's really true. And when you invite an audience in, they're getting to see something that nobody else gets to see, right? I mean, it's not like it's going to be broadcast far and wide. This is going to be broadcast far and wide. So I should say that we have people signed up from all 50 states and the District of Columbia, and 2 U.S. territories, Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands, and 17 countries. It turns out our Christmas Carol is big in Finland.
And Amanda's friends in Norway.
Amanda's friends in Norway, right? Yeah, we're all over Scandinavia. We've blanketed Scandinavia, just so FYI. So it's different, isn't it? Right? Normally, if we have an audience of 600, the place is packed. But this is going to go out to a number that I don't even want to say out loud because it scares me.
Usually the audience is the final piece, right? In theater, and hopefully we still feel that. I think we tried to do some special things to get the audience involved this year also, which I'm excited about.
Amanda, thank you for reminding me. We should say, and we should shout out to Danny Duque Estrada, because it was his idea. We were in our workshop and he said, hey, I really want this to be interactive somehow. And I thought, oh no, is this going to be some video game thing? Because Danny likes that kind of stuff. But he said, I just wonder if it could have some aspect that's like a scavenger hunt. And so we actually have that for kids and families that want to play along. And Albert and I have been doing the editing, and we've been putting in little things for kids to interact, so that they aren't just sitting and watching, but they can be part of it. So that's the hope, is that, like you said, Amanda, we're still trying to do something that allows the audience to join us.
Mm-hmm. It's important.
Yeah, I think it's very, very important. I've run through my questions. Oh, no, I haven't. This is terribly important. This one's really, really important. What is the audition process like for A Christmas Carol? Okay. And I don't know who that's from, but I've got to say this. Generally, the audition process is that we cast the people that we work with repeatedly, like Taavon, and they're part of the show. The audition process this year missed one very important part. Normally we have kids auditions at Cardi's, okay? And that happens every year in September. If you are interested in being in A Christmas Carol, being one of the kids in the future, you have to come to Cardi's to try out in September. And literally hundreds of people show up to audition for Christmas Carol, kids with their parents. And we pick 2 casts of somewhere between 5 and 8 kids. And that's how you audition for Christmas Carol. So just to say that. But as we said this year, sometimes you just had to be married to the right person. Did Adam have fun? Did he have fun doing this?
Oh, totally. I had so much fun. But it was fun for both of us to see it through Evelyn's eyes, especially for me who's done it. So to see it through her eyes, so who doesn't have any concept of it and it's her first time, that it was just like, oh, this is why we do this. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. She has been a fan favorite from the crew. Yeah. We love Evelyn and want to build a whole Christmas Carol around Evelyn. She's hilarious. and she's a really good singer too. Great, you guys. I can't thank you enough. Peter, we got you on camera for the show. I'm so excited about that. So now people, if when Peter has his camera off, you can see what he looks like. Because he doesn't love having his camera on. I know, but
yeah.
Thank you for doing it this week, Pete.
Yeah, sure. You're welcome.
Thank you,
Great.
Amanda. Thank you, Taavon. And thank you to our friend Albert. We're really glad that you're part of our family now, because wow, we couldn't do this without you. So
you guys are amazing. And I want to thank also Marta Martinez and Rhode Island Latino Arts for connecting me with Trinity. It's been amazing.
We're so lucky that we have her in our family too. Thank you for shouting her out. She gets shouted out a lot because we have big love for Martha. So all right, y'all. Hey, thanks for being here. And we'll be back in 2 weeks with a very special day. December 17th is the launch of Christmas Carol. So I'll see you then. Peter, play us off. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Great show tonight. As a reminder, we are off next week. There is no show next week. So we will see you back here 2 Thursdays from now for another 7:30 p.m. half hour. Thanks. Have a great night.